My favorite part of the trip was definitely like the boat cruise we did on the first night. Yeah, I'd never been to Sydney before, so it was like I think just like a really great time to just like all be together, you know, appreciate all like the staff, like the men's team was there too, but just like really come together as like a brown like water polo family, and also just like get to see the sights, you know, get to see like a really beautiful like sunset over Sydney and like yeah, the Opera House, you know, the Sydney, like the bridge, and just like a lot of great photo opportunities too, but also just like really coming together, celebrating JJ, you know, becoming an associate head coach. So yeah, it was just like a really like happy night that I think set the tone for the trip.
That was a great kickoff day. I think that was honestly one of my favorite moments of this whole trip, or experiences rather, was that cruise. Everyone was just filled with such great vibes to be finally off a plane and on. And then to also see the men's team, like we're really close and good friends with the men, so it was exciting to see them all out here in Sydney.
It was so incredible to like process that we were actually in Australia and to get to see my teammates after having been away from them for 3 weeks, and just kind of the reunion in such a beautiful place and in such an amazing way. It was really fun, and it set the tone for a really great trip.
The boat ride. You got it. Even though the scenery was amazing at the other one, the boat ride gave me an adrenaline rush like no other. That was my favorite part of the trip. Me and JoJo were in the back of the boat because we kind of wanted to be jerked around. I didn't know what I was getting. I really did not know what this boat was gonna be. And we were just getting thrashed around, and I was just like, had this massive smile on my face. My cheeks were sore from smiling. Just getting whipped and like water spraying in our faces, looking at the Sydney Harbor. It was just the wildest, most fun, kind of crazy ride. It was so much fun.
When we got on, at first I was like, it wasn't going very fast, so I was like kind of underwhelmed, but as soon as we got out of the harbor, they like floored, like pedal to the metal, and then it was like so fun. We were doing loop-de-loops like the whole time. And then I was in the middle of the boat, so they were also doing like these power stops where they would be like zooming and then like lay on the brakes, and so the front of the boat would go down and like all of this water would just like crash over you. And at one point I just had like a lake of water in my lap because we were getting so drenched, but it was a really good time. They were playing like really loud music, and yeah, the vibes were super good.
The Opera House was so cool. I think like it was something that I've always wanted to see, and I think like seeing all the theaters was really cool, and just like learning about the history of like how it was designed was really cool. I think especially when they talked about like how they designed it like out of a sphere and then sliced it was really cool, because I'd never learned about that. And also like I always thought it was white, but then they told us about how the tiles were like not actually white because it would be too bright. So we learned a lot of cool things. The favorite fact about the Opera House was one that took me a second to get, but in one of the theaters, because of the acoustics, they didn't want people sitting in the chairs can disrupt the sound, so they had the chair, like the seat and then the backing, basically acting as a human, so that when you were in it, it didn't mess up any of the acoustics, so you could hear it as it was intended. So that was really cool.
So no one's actually been on the roof except one person, which is like Jackie Chan for some movie that no one's seen. He got to slide down the roof at the Sydney Opera House, and no one else has been on that roof at all, so I thought that was fun.
I loved Symbio. It was so cool. It was really fun to see like the animals you see like on Instagram and like on the National Geographic like in real life. And the animals were so cute, seeing the koalas climbing up the trees, feeding the kangaroos. They were so friendly. There was like one like grabbing my hand and like eating the food out of my hand. And the sheep like were like jumping up on the fence. It was definitely a cool experience to see the animals that I've always wanted to see and I've grown up loving in person.
My favorite was the sheep. It was the really normal looking sheep that ate the food, because it was the only one that ate the food out of my hand and none of the kangaroos would.
I love animals. I'm a huge animal person, so that was super awesome. We got to go, we had a lot of time there, which was awesome, so we got to hit, I think, probably almost every single exhibit there, and that was so cool. We got to see the kangaroos, which was probably the best part, just getting to sit down and get to pet little kangaroos. That was so much fun, and then we saw cheetahs and dingoes.
I got to pet a kangaroo. I mean, how much more do I really want with a day-to-day life?
It was really, really cool to be able to see all those animals and to be able to actually like interact with the kangaroos. That was so cool. And just that like so many of those animals are things that you can't see anywhere else. It was really, really incredible. It was a really hot day, I will say that. So it was a little bit draining, but it was so cool, like just getting to see those animals, and who knows when I'll be back here again. So getting to do such a unique experience while we were here, that was amazing.
My favorite part of the trip was probably the museum, just because I really like museums, and like the shark exhibit was super cool, and it's like there was a lot of cultural content that I like related to because I'm Native Hawaiian, so it was really cool to see like the sharks in Hawaiian culture, and then I'm also like environmental science, so like lots of the conservation aspects are really interesting to me. And then kind of moving throughout the rest of the park, I just really enjoy learning about things like that, different parts of Aboriginal culture, animals, minerals, things like that. It was really, really cool.
Oh my god, the museum was so cool. So we first went down into the shark exhibit, and it was amazing, and you never really think about like what would you do? Well, you do think about what would you do if you saw a shark in the water while you're like standing in the water and all of a sudden like in front of you there's a shark, and you always think like, oh, I can push it away, I can hit its nose, push it away, or I can outswim it. And then when you're actually standing like in front of the size of that shark, I just remember thinking to myself, there's no way I would do anything in front of that shark. I would just be surprised, I would be shocked and just stand still, and I would just be staring at it. And it was kind of like, you know, realizing moment. But other than that, we got to draw a little bit. You know, we did a little shark coloring table, and then we got to see the visions of the sharks. And then if you actually went upstairs away from the shark exhibit, there was a lot more, so a lot about the Australian culture and the natives to this land before the Australians came. And then there was a lot of on the upper floors, a lot about the dinosaurs and kind of more about the Australian wildlife here. So it was a lot. It was interesting to learn.
I'm honestly not a huge shark fan, but that was so cool getting to see the real life like sizes of the sharks that were hanging up there, and then they had a lot of cool facts at the bottom with some interactive videos and everything. And I thought that was super cool, and I had a lot of fun going through there.